I was a person who was drowning and you came in to save me and I started drowning you.
Welcome back, investor, to another episode of the Passive Income Adventures, where we teach you to make more money, invest more money so that you can retire early and live the life of your dreams. So today we have Christine Diamond from Harvest Consulting, and we talk about ways that we can live the life of our dreams right now instead of waiting until we have more time, until we have more money. Christine helps people to make more money in their businesses and helps to unchain entrepreneurs from the day to day so that they can get out, travel more, serve more, spend more time with their family, and we have a lot of conversations about the character driven nature of business, doing business with people that you trust, whether you're investing with us or whether you are hiring people, learning how to screen people, do your due diligence on people, and then learning how to trust those people will help you to make more money than you ever thought possible. And I know that that sounds so cliched, but imagine that you're working in your business, things are running well, they're organized, you are stopping that role that you have of running around and putting out fires so that you can finally focus on building the business, gaining more clients and growth, making more money. Then you have extra to invest. So you can start thinking about financial freedom and start thinking about how you're going to go and serve people. We talk a lot about how wealth enables people to serve more, but also if you're the kind of person who is going to procrastinate this, how to bring that serving intention into your life right now, no matter what situation you're in with your business or your wealth building progress. You're going to get some really actionable, tactical tips on how to run your business more efficiently, how to get the help that you need, and also how to do the whole thing with the right mindset so that you are reaching the goals that are most important to you and to your community. We are live with Christine Diamond from Harvest Consulting in Salt Lake City. And Christine and I go back quite a number of years. And I thought that, Christine, I thought you're the perfect person to have on the show because you really are like my ideal investor in so many ways. And so how about you just kick us off by telling us about yourself, like how we met from your perspective and just catch us up to your history, some of the decisions you've made, the changes you've made in your life and how you started and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, of course. So everybody who is an entrepreneur in any capacity knows that it's an adventure, a roller coaster of up and down. And so I was wanting to explore that adventure. I was going out and about in the real estate investing meetups and networking with my dad. And I just wanted to learn everything. So my background was in international business management. I knew I wanted to have a business. So I was like, okay, is that business in real estate? I had helped my dad as his assistant. He was a realtor here in Utah. And I was like, okay, I no longer want to be an assistant. At some point, I want to be the owner. So in that path, I was like, okay, do I want a wholesale deal? No. Help that with the We Offer Options group. And I ended up tidying up their form, which they still use to this day. And then I went into Utah RIA and was like, do I want to flip single family houses? No, that seems really intense. Then I met you, Emma, at the Win that Rebecca was hosting. And
Women Investor Network.
yes, Women Investment Network. And we met up at a lunch, and I was telling you about my history of my administrative roles, sales manager, all these other business management roles. And you said, I have a partner who could use your help. And you introduced me to Christopher. And I not only helped him on the project that you guys were partnered on with Ridgeline in Idaho as his executive assistant, but all of the other he was working on. And when that project in Idaho was going through the refinance period,
Oh
and you
boy.
have your 11 investors who are wanting their money back, and there's the construction crew, and you need to get the capital out from the bank so that we can get the next big installment for the general contract. There's 20 other people with Freddie Mae, Freddie Mac, and all these people. So I like organized it, made sure that everyone was informed, and just became a hound dog following up with people. And that $5 million loan went through. 11 investors were happy. Everyone who was in the partnership was like, oh, yeah, you guys gave me the phone I have to this day. And you're like, here's a bonus, do this thing. And I was like, I just essentially did the work of Emma's role as like an investor. She's like, go ahead, take it. And I thought, wow, I'm getting paid hourly. Like, how can I become a partner? And then the partners were asking, how can I get a Christine to help manage my
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. That's when my consulting started 2 years ago. And I jumped. I had two clients, and all I told them was, let me help you manage your project. And the whole idea was if I could help real estate investors have better partners and a better connection with their construction crew, that there was actual on time payment from banks, that the things that you're interacting with in the real estate investing industry were more smooth, then everyone would have a better experience and more cash flow and money would pass through people's hands and make more people wealthy quicker. And so I was like, oh, that sounds so fun. I have helped so many other people in different industries just because it was just helping business owners. But I really do like assisting people to live in where their zone of genius is and not have to do all the administrative stuff and at least have a system or a person in place to take. That's where I'm at today, and it's been quite the ride.
Yeah, okay, so you said a lot of things there that I want to dive into a little bit more. So I have a couple of questions. So the first thing you said that really caught my attention is how you were attending real estate investing meetings with your dad. And that's how I got started in real estate investing, minus the dad part. But I started going to local meetings that I found because I got invited to what I thought was a business meeting, like a business networking meeting. And I was thinking of doing something similar to what you're doing, where I was helping small business owners stop being such train wrecks organizationally, like helping them with their bookkeeping, helping them with their social media management, helping them with the things that they knew that they should be doing, but they weren't doing well because they were too busy being massage therapists or insurance salespeople. And I thought, okay, I can go in and help them get their businesses under control. And I showed up at this meeting and it was a real estate meeting. And it was one of those run to the back of the room and pay us tens of thousands of dollars if you want to join our education and we'll make you rich type of. And I felt very betrayed. I was very upset that I was at this meeting. And so I went home and for whatever reason, I started researching because I thought, well, I could probably make a lot more money in real estate than I ever could as a business consultant. If I'm going to start a business, it should be a real estate business. I'd been a real estate photographer for 10 years and I learned how to do graphic design when I was a kid drawing floor plans on the computer because I'm just so fascinated with buildings. And so I thought it would be a good fit for me. Most people think, oh, I should invest in real estate, but they have no idea how to get started. And they're kind of afraid of it. And so one of the things that, like with you, you're like, hey, when I have some money to invest, what do you have? And you come to me and I don't ever have to convince you that real estate is a cool thing to be investing in because you showed up at the meeting. So where did you get from, gee, I'm trying to make ends meet to I should go to real estate? Was it your dad who started bringing you or tell me about that transformation?
Okay, it was interesting is actually my dad was doing real estate and he's like, "Oh, I want to flip this. Oh, I want to." He saw all these potential options and I love people. And I was like, "Well, who's doing it already?"
Yeah.
So it was actually myself. I said, "Why don't we go meet people who are actually doing it and not try and reinvent the wheel, but partner with those who are already successful at it and maybe become apprentices or get a mentorship or some kind of JV role or something before I
Mhm.
knew that JV role was a thing." And yeah, I was like, let's just find it out. So I was like, literally searched on Google and I was like, Utah real estate stuff. So Utah RIA came up, Utah real estate. Then I went to the Utah RIAs and then that's where Rebecca Jensen and Jeff Rappaport have their apprentice program and was like, oh, I'll check this one out. Just tinkered around and met people. So my dad, he came with, and he's a very gregarious, kind person as well. So we had fun just meeting people and asking lots of questions.
I don't think you realize like how profound what you just said actually is because people have called me up before for my social media and they say, "Hey, I've got a house that I want to flip. Do you want to partner on it?" or whatever, right? And I say, "Okay, I need to see the numbers." And they're like, "I don't know how to run numbers." "Have you checked out Bigger Pockets? They have a great calculator." "Bigger what?" "Have you gone to any meetings that you're maybe go to your local RIA and find a contractor?" They're like, "A local what?" And it's like they see Chip and Joanna Gaines on HGTV or whatever channel they're on, and they think, "Oh, I'm gonna go do that." But your who, not how, or let's find somebody who's already done it, that's actually pretty unusual. So where did that come from?
I think that's a part of my person. When I was at Utah Valley University studying business, I wasn't just studying business. I was actually a student consultant on teaching. And now I'm a business consultant, which is funny. But Like, I asked around, I was in leadership roles, I helped with, like, service stuff, I brought guests on campus and just, like, met people, and when people say your network is your net worth, it is so true. Like, if you
Yes.
don't know something, go talk to people who know it. Go research and find the areas where people are talking about it, and that is something that I think people underestimate in our digital world is the power of in-person meetings. Even if you're shy, even if you're shy or socially awkward or whatever, listen. That's when you listen enough, you can feel confident to ask the right. Going to find meetups for something that you wanna learn about and then hands-on interacting with people is so powerful because the energy is shared. Even if you do a Connect Utah virtual meetup or Connect wherever state you're at, virtual meetup, that's still better than just following on social media and just DMing people, like you said, without any hands-on research.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a story. I'm gonna draw a little analogy here. When my sister was in high school, I'm a little bit younger than her, and she would come home and she would be talking about this boy that she had a crush on.
Yeah,
And a week or 2 weeks later, this boy was at our house. And this happened again and again and again. Every boy that she's like, "Oh, I've got a crush on," he would show up at our house and they would end up hanging out. And I asked her, I said, "How do you do that?" And she gave me the stalker answer. She's like, "I find out what their schedule is, and I just make sure that I'm around that area when they're walking out of their classroom, that I know that I'm walking through the lunch room when they're in their second lunch or whatever." And she said, "I just make sure that I know where that person is, and I put myself in a nearby position where I can strike up a conversation." And I remember at the time I was saying, "Well, that sounds kind of stalkerish," right? But it continued to work for her again and again and again. And it's the same kind of practice. It's like, where are the people that you want to learn to do what they're doing? And a lot of people make excuses like, "Oh, real estate investors are all rich people. I don't know any rich people." But there are real estate clubs where they go hang out and you're allowed to go hang out and they don't ask you how much money you make when you want to show up at these clubs.
there's something to be said for sweat equity. If you
Yeah,
are willing to do things for free and test out what your services and skills are with anyone, then they're like, "Sure, I'll take a chance on you and see what you can do to help us because it's no monetary cost for me." And then you get hands-on training. I think if people are willing to do what your sister did and just be in spaces where the people you wanna learn from are, it's so valuable because honestly, if I was just searching online and I didn't meet people at Utah RIA and then I didn't meet you in person, you probably wouldn't have as much of a draw to care about me either. And I wouldn't have as much of a draw to understand your reasoning for being in real estate, like what compelled you to it. And so that in person or at least one-on-one Zoom, but like face-to-face interaction help you truly bond and create real established relationships with people that you can then trust, especially when you're saying, "Hey, here's the people in my network, and here's their hard-earned capital that they've saved for like 10 years. Now I'm going to say, Emma, will you please take care of my friend nest egg and not mess it up and have a good process for giving them their money back and their returns." It's a exchange of your reputation too. This is what people I think forget when they're just all numbers is real estate investing or any business that you're in is so deeply related to relationships and creating trustworthy bonds.
exactly. And we talk a lot about how it's all about numbers, it's all about numbers, which to a certain extent is true, but there has to be trust between the investor and the person who's running the numbers that they know what they're doing before they're going to trust their numbers, money into the hands of that investor. So even though we make decisions based on math, there's a lot of trust that goes into who is actually doing the math, who's actually doing the administration of the asset management, who's taking care of the fact that the contractor is going to show up on time. All of those details need to be part of the decision making process. And the only way you're going to know that is if you form a relationship with somebody. I'm not saying trust blindly. My preferred investor is somebody who kind of knows what they're doing. And again, it's something that you have because you spend time in the industry, you understand enough about it. You've you've done some of it yourself. I don't have to talk you into that real estate is a cool thing, but I also don't have to completely babysit your education because you've taken some of that on to yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have questions, but you're not the person who calls up and says something like, "Hey, I missed your webinar, but can you give it to me again in person, one on one?" You're gonna go do your own due diligence, which I think is a huge part. You're talking about these relationships, doing your due diligence on the deal and on the person. It needs phone conversations, it needs interactions, but it shouldn't be just regurgitating the same information that you can get by reading the pitch deck or listening to the deal webinar. So, how are you able to kind of like you pivoted into the real estate industry as an executive assistant, as a manager, and switched over to consulting, taking on your own clients? How did that affect you? Because I know that at the beginning you're doing business consulting, but you still were like, I want to be an investor, I want to be an investor, I want to be an investor. So how are you able to handle, oh, maybe this isn't going in the direction that I want? Because it ended up being the direction that you want. But at first it was a little bit of a strange transition to be like, hey, am I doing the right thing here?
Yeah, and I think that's really important for every person to realize. There's a business consultant I like following. Her name's Marie Forleo, and she says, not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes people like working with startup companies, but just wearing one hat. Everyone who decides to be the leader as an entrepreneur needs to be comfortable moving in many different directions. And like you said, pivoting. So, what I found was I dabbled in each type. So, I did my own fix and flip in West Valley. I got a 990K profit from that one. I was a property manager. I did like the wholesaling. I did the apprentice program. And then I even was a partner, the fund with Joe Rinder Connect for a year and helped bring in their first deal with the 7 investors. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be an activist. I don't want to. I've seen the behind the scenes of all of these, and I just really like helping people within business. That's what my forte is. I love it. I like matching people with the right administrative key player. I love solving problems when you hit a roadblock and helping people through it. And so I was like, you know what? This is my passion. This is my zone. So when I thought about that, I was like, who do I trust out of all the people that I have met? And I was like, I worked with Emma and now Zasha in Rise Capital has been a client of mine and she has an assistant in place. And I even met Harmony at the Utah RIA for Women meetups that we had. And I don't know the other members, but I think that it would be cool to meet them. And so what I thought was, I just focus on my business, what I'm good at. And then I set aside funds in my own holding company to wait. And then I go, okay, I've got 50,000. I'm ready. I want to be in on your next deal. In the meantime, I can just, because I know people, send them your direction because I trust you. And you have similar ethics as I do and value system. So that's where I've landed here because not everyone does. Not everyone does have good ethics. And even people you think do will cut corners or not pay people because they're not following up on their invoices or whatever. And, anyways, I do think that it's valuable to do your due diligence on people, vet them, and then do what you do really well and partner with those who do what they do really well. So you are excellent in building up this real estate investment group and bringing people together. And so I was like, how about you keep doing what you do best and I do what I do best and we blend our world.
Exactly. I found that the more I'm able to really focus in on my specialty, this is an interesting juxtaposition on being detail oriented or not. Because if I'm really in my zone of genius, as you call being really in your niche and really specializing hard in something, I'm very concerned with the details for that niche, but I become less and less concerned for the details outside of that niche. And so sometimes people will say to be an entrepreneur, to be a leader, you can't be detail oriented. and people will take advantage of you if you don't have your hand on the project management. And so I think that's a really difficult thing that I struggle with because I'm very detail oriented in the thing that I'm doing and the thing that I'm in charge of, but I can't be everything everywhere to all people. And so talking to the leader of the company, because you're an entrepreneur, you own your own business, and we don't have to own our own business. My husband, when he was looking for his superpower, he's a jack of all trades, and he was struggling because he felt like doing a little bit of everything actually harmed him because he wasn't able to become the rock star specialist in any one thing. And as we were talking about it, he said, "You know what I'm really good at is doing a little bit of everything. That's my superpower. And I really am suited best to an early stage startup when they can only afford one dude to do IT and web design and technical writing and systems and process design because they are a startup and they don't have any money." And so he really started specializing in early stage startups. And that became his superpower niche, even though he's a jack of all trades. And so that was a really good lesson for me to think, okay, so what am I really good at? And how do I package that in a way that makes me successful? So being an entrepreneur, and you are very detail oriented, that is one of the reasons I wanted to hire you, is because I needed somebody to take care of the admin stuff that we didn't have time for. And you're taking even just the loan, it was a Freddie Mac loan, and it had 75 forms that were all 75 pages each. It was the ridiculous amount of research to even just fill out the forms for the loan.
Mhm.
And it was like, hey, Christine, it was such a relief that we had you to rely on for that. So, looking at the detail orientedness of business owners and how we have to give up a lot of that, delegate, what advice can you give to us? What do we need to be doing? What can we not delegate? And how do we stay on top of the things that we are delegating?
First, I would say what you should never delegate is your vision and what you're extremely good at and your decision. You're the decider. You're the one who's going to make the final approval on whatever you outsource. They can have an approved document where you've had somebody trained and this is what I'm okay with you saying on social media. This is my voice. This is all right. You have to micromanage, but I would say don't give up being the actual leader. Be the leader of what you're leading. Have the vision, be strategic, do your stuff that you do well, and make your own decisions with the team's input. But what you can offload is if you've read the entrepreneurial myth, it's basically everything else. In the E Myth, she's a pie maker and she's sitting there a few years later looking at her accounting books and going, why am I an accountant? I wanted to be a pie maker. And so I think it's really important to find the other people that love doing what you don't love doing. And as soon as you can afford to offload it, if someone, if you have a problem and it can be solved by paying and you have the money to pay for it, then it's solved and you don't.
Where do you get Where do you draw the line there, though? So let's take the pie making example. It's one of my favorite books. Any business owner that is struggling, I recommend this book. And it talks about designing systems and processes. But I think what it does better than anything else is talking about hiring that key person that you can offload everything to, and that key person quit. And you thought, oh, well, now I can go back to being a pie maker because Mary's in the back office taking care of everything. And one day Mary comes in and she quits. And that was the same thing that happened with Christine. Like, A players hire A players, and we know that that A player is eventually going to leave. And I was so excited when you announced that you were starting your own business and you were basically going to take what you were doing for us and start doing it for other people. At the same time, it was like, oh man, I lost my Christine. So just understanding that when you left us with systems and processes and written documents so that we could plug in either ourselves or hire someone new so that you didn't leave us hanging and you were able to design that. So a lot of the things that you took care of, we did have to get up to speed on, and because we had delegated more and more over time. And so finding that key person, sometimes how do you turn that into a strength, and delegating rather than a disaster when that person leaves eventually, that you're left in the lurch.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we understand if you're hiring someone who's a key player, who's, like you said, an A player, that there are natural growth incentives to keep them there. If you're going to have a McDonald's or a Walmart, you're always going to have young teenagers or people that don't really care about the business, just doing their basic job. If
Mhm.
you hear people like Costco, you can have a 40-year-old college graduate being a cashier, absolutely loving it because they're being paid a fair wage and benefit, and they get to wear whatever they want.
Yeah.
Well, that's a factor. If you're going to want to keep a lean team of A players, then make sure you're working with that person on their growth plan, or they'll find another path. And if even if you're doing that and everything worked out well, there's all the bonuses you could possibly do and they leave, having the training program built out as you're going and as the business evolves and you're always updating it every quarter, it doesn't matter because you're aware. You're aware of what the person is doing, even if you're not in the nitty-gritty doing it.
Mhm.
And so then when it comes to training, you can just go to some previous recordings of how it was done and just say, "Hey, new person, you're A player as well. Come look at all these trainings of what our other A player did, educate yourself, and then come to us with questions." So then you can get caught up to speed that much faster. And I love helping match people with A players and finding what is the personality dynamic and culture of this small group or even just one person. One thing I would like to share is I think that people who are in business have to deal with emotional roller coasters all the time. And so if you're prepared for things to change always and that you're going to have ebbs and flows of people, of projects, of partners, and that it's just always flowing, life is a river flow, then it's not a surprise. And I've gone through a lot of big changes in my life. When I talked to you earlier in the call today about that fix and flip I did, well, part of the reason I was exiting my lovely home in West Valley after we fixed it up and had the rental and did house hacking down in the bottom was because I got divorced. And I had to make a really hard decision because if you are not growing, then you are decaying. So, in the natural law of seasons and harvest and growth, is if you're not preparing for growth, then you're dying. And so I was growing a ton, and then he was dying and turning to addictions and other sorts of things. And so sometimes you have to prune and you have to make really hard decisions. You have to prune people who aren't producing as much, even if you care. And your A player turns into an F player, and you're like, they're flunking at everything. It's okay, you can still care about them. And I worked with my sister. She was a social media manager for me and had just barely moved, and it wasn't producing any leads, and it wasn't a good use of my money. And I had to let go of my sister. Like, well, you have to make bold moves, and you can do so in kind, tactful ways. And my ex-husband even texted me last year, and he said, "I understand now, Christine. I know why you had to leave." And he said, "I was a person who was drowning, and you came in to save me, and I started drowning you." And so it's really, really important that when we build personal relationships and business relationships, and we're preparing for change and flux, that we're emotionally prepared and practically prepared and setting up goals for success.
That is powerful. It's making me a little emotional. And now I don't want to ask any questions about bookkeeping. You hit it though. You hit it on the head because the emotional ups and downs of how am I going to make payroll? How
Yeah.
am I going to save this deal that's not going well? How am I going to be able to make sure our investors are getting what we projected? That's a very difficult. I think one of the most important people on my team is my admin help because again, the more I spread out, the less I can be on the details of everything. But I might even rank my performance coach higher than that. It's a really good point that you bring up because keeping those emotions and keeping that motivation and keeping that drive alive is helped out by people who can see what you're doing and lift off some of that burden. So how do you help your clients that side of things? Because you do a lot of admin. You can help us find bookkeepers. You can help us figure out how to manage people. Executive assistants is your specialty. How do you help them deal with the emotional ups and downs and how to prepare?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of my client, Andy, who's a landscaper. So I'm working a lot more now with some of people in the real estate industry that are the tree professionals. So
Mhm.
electricians, tree trimmers, landscapers, the general contractors. And what I found is there is an there's an emotional insecurity of having someone come into the back end of your business and see the mess that's there
Yes.
and say,
I'm not laughing because I know.
if you had someone coming in who was cleaning up your house and was like a home organizer, and they're like, come into my hoarder's nest of living here for 5 years. And so then I come into the business and essentially see the same thing with files everywhere, with emails not answered, with none of these bills paid or invoices are like not even sent. And I'm like, you're okay. I'm amazed that you have been in business for 10 years and you don't have contracts with your general contracted subcontract.
That's the reason you're called contractors.
We're not contractors in the name and you don't have a contract. Let's get a template from Rocket Lawyer. Let's start with it's really just making it jovial, telling them that they're not the only one, helping them understand that I'm here to support. I don't have any judgment. That I've been there, that I do the same thing. I have to consult myself. Have scattered brains where I'm super creative. And if you saw my wall over here, it's got these big, huge sticky notes of visions and like, oh, and then Nick did this, do that. And then I hyper focus and I put on the blinders and I just work. I think relating to people in their emotions when they come up is how I help them when we're doing the pragmatic or logical next step. So here's the logistics of hiring and onboarding your next person. Whatever the task may be, it's saying, you're normal. We're all in this. People like to put on facades of having it perfect. And what I learned from working with the fund was even these like super pro professional guys, they still turned to me and were like, what's our password for our Instagram account?
Yeah.
What was it again? I can't get in. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. And so hopefully you can find people where you match your weakness with theirs.
So, speak to me a little bit about how the cobbler's children have no shoes and the hairdresser's kids always need a haircut. How do you manage your own business when that's what you do all day long, every day, and you're supposed to be super organized and you're supposed to be the perfect example? But, like you said, letting people in and seeing sometimes that you have your own things that you're dealing with. How do you tell yourself, I'm doing a good job when you see yourself sometimes committing the same errors that some of your business owners commit?
Oh my gosh, I'm actually really glad that you're saying this because I was at the coffee shop in American Fork yesterday doing body doubling with my boyfriend as he was applying for nursing school. And I was talking to him and I said, thank you so much for being here. I've needed to focus so hard on this email campaign that I can send out. And I have not been able to because I can't figure out what this next offer is. And he's like, I didn't even do anything. I was like, I know, but you're working on your thing. And I know that at the end, I'm going to report to you. And that's what I do in my accountability cohort. But I need you to help me, even though that's what I do for other people. I need you to be here because I was just, oh, I guess I should go on another walk. Oh, squirrel, I guess I need to change my laundry to the other thing because I'm working from home. Or maybe I should prepare my dinner for tonight. Or I don't know, like just ignoring it because it was a big mental block. It was like writer's block.
Yes.
You can have chat GPT in this world. And I was still like, I don't know if I like that. And just being able to have a sounding board and run my ideas off of him, even though he is a business owner as a massage therapist, but he's more like a freelancer, I guess you'd call him, serving people one on one. But that's how I consult myself by seeing what do I do for other people that helps them and how can I get that support? Have you ever watched Undercover Billionaire?
I No, but that's a different discussion on one.
No, it's good. It's a really good one. And I encourage people to go look at the Grant Cardone one that's leaked on YouTube. And he goes through all of the business behind the scenes content that you don't see on the Discovery Channel. He goes through all that.
Mm,
But what I did was I said, I want to be, I want to do that challenge. I want to build $1 million business in 90 days or a year, really. It's like you get a valuation at 90 days and say, could this be $1 million business? And so I have four other business owner women in my group on my Slack channel. And I just created my own accountability so that I would be making progress. So those are the things is think of what you do well and actually slow down enough in your life to apply it to yourself and ask for help from other people who even might know the same things as you, but they just need to reflect it so that you can get outside your own head. Because in our own businesses, whatever yours may be, whatever your work is, you're in the weed. The other person can see the bird's eye view. So when I come in to talk to you, I can see the bird's eye view of, oh, here's a new perspective. You should just do this. And you, oh, thank you. I was too close to the problem. So,
That's been something I've found has gotten easier for me, ironically, the less bogged down in the details that I am, because I'm able to forgive myself more when I make a mistake, because I'm going to make mistakes. But I know because I'm less concerned with the details, I'm less concerned with being perfect. Now that sounds really terrible. Spin that and turn it into a positive. I think it's been a huge part of my growth and my ability to grow in my business. But that just made it sound like I'm not paying attention. And when I make a mistake, I don't care. So, because a lot of people are dealing with this, but I don't really feel like I could grow in my business until I was able to start coping with that. So, how can that actually be a strength?
so what you said was interesting because there's a difference between progress and perfection. Perfection never exists. It can never be a thing. You will never, as a human being, ever attain perfection. You'll create a hand sanitizer that is still 99.9% effective.
Calculus.
You'll create a birth control that's still 99.9% effective. It's still there's that point one, you just it will never be perfect. And so if it creates the most horrible analysis paralysis if you're stuck in perfectionism. And I had a chief revenue officer when I worked at Children's Miracle Network. He said, it's about progress, not perfection. I want you to learn from your mistakes, own up to it, take accountability, say, this is what I'm going to do to make it right. And I think that's what's really important too is you have every intention to have your promise kept. You make a promise, you have every intention to keep it. But if you're unable to for any foreseeable reason, you do your very best to make amends and repair. I mean, that's life.
What are the top tips that business people have to know when we are delegating things? We are kind of letting go of that ultimate control, that we're going to start trusting other people. This is, I think, is an important skill. Most business owners have learned how to trust some of their staff, but maybe we can get into this later. They haven't learned how to trust people to invest their money. That's another leap. But because they're so afraid, business owners, let's take it back. Like, this accountant might steal money from me. This executive assistant might, I don't know, drop the ball, and then I've missed an important meeting. Like, how do you keep on top of what the people are doing enough to make sure that they're doing a good job without knowing so much about it that you could do it yourself?
Okay, I know this one and it's really important. This one is a super important paradigm if you're ever going to hand off anything that you love to someone else. You need to think of it as a mom or a dad versus a babysitter. You will always love your child more than the babysitter. That should be if you're a loving parent. We'll make that caveat. But the idea is if you're a business owner and you're the one who created this baby, you're the one who nurtured it to grow it. And it's like, oh, look, I have this. And then you're going to hand off a responsibility associated with taking care of it to someone else and you're going to pay them for it. They may have more training than you because that babysitter is like CPR certified, first aid, knows all whatever. They've got like more training and skill in a certain area, but ultimately they won't necessarily care as much as you. So find enough of a key player that will care 6 to 7 points out of 10. You care 10 levels, they care 6, and they're skilled. Their skills can get you up to 8 out of 10. That's really important because if you have the expectation that you could just do it, yeah, you could, but is it the highest and best use of your time? If you could have someone take care of your social media and do it at 80% of what you could, but consistently it's off of your plate and they're doing good enough, great job. I was like good enough to great. job. It's not always excellent. Sometimes it hits excellent and it's on point, sometimes it's not. And you have the progress happening, then you can spend your time and energy in higher level thinking, in more strategic planning, in doing what you love. And so I think that's a really important expectation is that your level of care and the way in which you would commit to doing it and that like, oh, I could do that in 5 minutes. Well, yeah, because you're also the decision maker. They have to wait for your approval. So it's really important for that expectation to be set because then if it is, once you hire the person and they're behaving that way, you're like, okay, cool, because they're not me and they will care more about something that I don't care and they'll take it off my plate. So it's important to train them, to have someone with excellent skill sets that also matches your culture and your personality. But ultimately, whenever you hand it off, it's not going to be the same and that's okay.
I hire for character traits because I can train skills fairly easily.
Yep.
How do you manage that when you need somebody to come plug into your business right now with the skills that you need? And can you still hire for both? Can you hire for character and skills, or do you usually put character higher and the skills will come along? Because I feel like anybody coming into my business, no matter how skilled they are, is still going to have a learning curve. Hopefully, they're teaching me, they're good enough to teach me. But if they don't know what they're doing, I feel like I'd rather just somebody who has really good work ethic and a dedication to excellence would be much more important to me than somebody who was good at the thing.
I'm going to answer this in a little bit different way than probably you're expecting. Is specifically just barely, I placed 3 virtual assistants as social media managers,
Mhm.
and every single one of them are excellent and skilled, and they have brand recognition, they know avatars, they're college educated in marketing, they know all of this, but I placed each different person with a different business owner because of the personality, the interest level that the assistant had to work for that type of business owner and vice versa. I think that people just focus on like, okay, is this person qualified? That's your bare bones. I would say have a certain standard of qualification for doing the job, even if you're going to train up from there. Let's say that the qualification is level 6 out of 10, at least have your bare bones like that they know how to use the right software to do the job or whatever it is. But then you follow not only their character trait, how does their character trait match or complement yours and your team? Are they not only going to get along with you, but everyone else that you typically are going to have them interact with? Like if you hired a virtual assistant as an executive assistant for you, they're going to have to interact with your partner. So you think, okay, this person is skilled at administrative, professional, and project management. Great. Every single candidate that I'm going to place in front of anybody is qualified. And then we pick from the cream of the crop their values, their character, and how they're going to match with the team. I think we want the best of all worlds when possible. So that's what I like to offer. And I think when it's possible, go for that because then your turnover will be less. You'll have a better experience with them. They'll have a better experience with you, and it'll be more fun.
What are the top things that business owners can do to make more money? Now I know this sounds really like a trite question, but my transparent evil plan is I want to help business owners make more money so that they can invest more money so that I can help them retire early and they can run their business from a state of abundance and passion rather than I got to feed my family and pay my light bills this month. And so what are the biggest mistakes you see business owners making that are keeping them from making as much money as they possibly can? That you're like, if I could just tell people these 2 or 3 things, everybody would be better business owners.
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Okay. Many people say, I'm so busy, I have to keep putting out fires. And I'm like, are you a firefighter? No. So don't put out fires. Plan to prevent forest fires like Smokey the Bear said. Like, please. What I saw, this is a good example, is what I would say is take the time to prepare and know from your past what have been challenges that have surprised me and put in plans to prevent that from happening again. So what happens is if you've ever watched Full House, this will date me because people younger than 30, I guess, maybe don't know Full House is
Oh,
a show.
they all know now. We were in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and my kids
Oh, yeah.
asked right by the Full House, so they knew it.
Oh, yeah. Fuller House on
Yep,
Disney
they
Channel.
know it. They know it.
Okay, cool. So from Full House, Michelle's the youngest girl, and Danny Tanner, super clean freak. He, in one episode, was chasing his daughter around the front room, and she was pulling out tissues one at a time as she's running away from him, giggling. And he's picking up one of those at a time. I was like, go and get that tissue box out of her hand. And then you have got the root of the problem, and then go have her clean up the rest of them. And so, what I found with business owners is they tend to be like Danny. They want things to be clean and run well and smooth, but then they're frantically just chasing every big urgent thing that's in front of them and not realizing that if you're only addressing the fire in front of you and not your true priority, like making sure you have an LLC or a contract with your subcontractors or like paying bills, they're going to surprise you at random moments and you're not going to be happy. So if you just have a dedicated time, even if you don't hire any, you just have a dedicated time block every single week for 2 hours without fail, and you can hold yourself accountable or someone else to just say that this is when I take care of administrative tasks. And these are the things that are super important to address. You would hit the root. You would take the tissue box out of the hand of the child that's causing all these fires. Most of the problems that people come to me with are so incredibly preventable.
Mm,
So
okay.
incredibly preventable. And it reduces your headache, your stress, the cortisol in your body. It's going to make you live longer. Oh, anyway, I digress.
Okay, so take me for example. It's my podcast, and I get to ask selfish questions when I feel like. Hold on, I get to ask selfish questions when I feel like it. Okay, so it's my podcast, and I get to ask selfish questions when I feel like it. And so with me, I've read Stephen Covey. I know I'm supposed to spend most of my time in quadrant two. I've read the E Myth. I know I'm supposed to have written procedures and policies and SOPs and all. I do all of that, but I have 10,000 unread emails. I have 99 plus unread text messages at any given time. And it's not because I don't know that that needs done. I don't want to do it. And I can't afford to pay somebody to do everything that I can't do. We have to be strategic about the first hires or second hires because all of us are running around putting out fires, but we can't all just afford to bring somebody in to do the stuff that we know we should be doing, but we don't want to do. What are some low hanging fruit that would help us to get through these kinds of periods where we either can't find the right hire or we can't afford the right hire and we're just not doing the things that we know need done?
When I think about a solution that you're not quite ready for, right? So, like, whether it's monetary or you don't want to manage a person yet or whatever it is, what else is there? What other options are there to address 10,000 emails? Okay. How about what I had just said is I may not check my emails every single day, but I'm going to quick scan it 30 minutes every morning, or I'm going to have two time blocks on my week where I'm just like, this is just message responding. And I'm going to quick scan anything that's important and reply to that first. Then, if I have more time, I'm going to go through and filter out anything that's fluff so that stops coming in my way. And I have a little guidebook as well that people use. It was awesome to work with Dasha because, like, she just spent a weekend following my Inbox Zero's real guidebook
Mm,
when we were working together. And I was like, oh, awesome. You just solved one of our projects in a weekend. Then the system is set up so that it's not just like this big, huge cleanup every single time you want to address your emails. It's like,
mhm.
okay, if I'm consistently chipping away at this and I go when I have energetic time or when I know that I'm more likely to actually do this, then you're setting yourself up for success. And then once you can build in systems, automation, that's when you're ready for a person because you don't need to bring in any other people if you can just go on Google and say, how do I most effectively XYZ? So be resourceful with what's free right now and give yourself the time to do the things that maybe you don't like doing and you wish you could offload, but be like, I only have to do this 20% of my time. It's the 80-20 rule. I saw you make a comment on that about the 80
Yeah,
20 rule.
I'm
Just like,
pretty good at the 80/20.
at least if you give yourself the 20% of the time on the task that you don't like doing, then they will get done.
Yeah.
When you give it 0 or like point 0.1, then they're gonna turn into a fire in your face.
I feel like the things that we're consistently procrastinating, that's the signal. If we just try to set up the systems, we try to make ourselves do it, we try whatever, and it's just not working because we continually are procrastinating, that to me is like the sign that it needs to pivot. I really do like IT solutions. Like I'll give you an example of I can pay $150 a year for Canva to save me 150 hours a year of not doing something in Photoshop. Those types of things. It's much cheaper for me to do my stuff in Canva than it is to hire a graphic designer. And eventually it's going to get to the point where I have to hire a VA or somebody to do the graphic design. So it's like incremental to me. Is there some sort of a paid IT solution that will solve 80% of this problem for me before I can afford to bring in a human? What are your big ones that you're like, you guys need this to help you just to survive until you can make that hire?
The big software solutions or just any solution or
Any, if there's a particular software that you think most business owners need to have this or a system, like you mentioned inbox zero systems, what types of things you say most business owners need to implement this and they're not?
when people talk about time management,
Hmm.
that's a lie. It's can't manage time.
Just keeps going without us.
It's just flowing forever. So I have a little guidebook. It's called Creative Life Flow. And the most important thing is that you manage yourself. And people don't want to do that. I would say that in when you invested in your business coach and the emotional side, and you're investing in you as a leader with higher education or applying it, you need to actually set aside time and say, this is what truly matters to me. And instead of time management, it's priority management. And have you ever heard of that example where there's like a bottle and if you try to fill it with rocks and rice
Yeah.
and water, that one? Yeah. If you do the rocks first and then the rice and then the water, you can fill everything. But if you do the rocks last, put them in.
Hmm.
So know what your priority rocks are, whether it is your time or it's the projects or whatever. And I think that people underestimate how important it is to manage yourself.
Hmm.
You're the common denominator in everything that you do.
It's a powerful example of language because when we call it time management, it almost absolves us of responsibility because it's something else. I need to manage something else instead of saying, I need to manage my own productivity. I need to manage my own priorities and take care of the big rocks first. Email inbox. I have had so many workarounds for that, trying to figure out a way to get around needing to do inbox zero, and so far, so good, but there's a lot of stuff that I miss. These types of organizational things that people who don't need to work start thinking about how they can serve, whether they're serving through a business or they're serving through philanthropy and volunteering. They just start thinking about what can I do for other people. And so I have a passion in my business of taking people who are wealthy, like high income earners, entrepreneurs, professionals, high achievers, who are so close to being able to retire, be financially free, or being job optional. They just don't quite realize it. And they don't really know how to complete that process to say, hey, I don't have to work anymore. Now, what am I going to do? I find that the way that their eyes light up when they realize, hey, I can go start a business doing this, or I can start consulting on that, or I can volunteer here or start something. And the way they think, it just shifts and they're so close. I love just that little tip that they need in the right direction. Tell me about some of your moments as a consultant that have been really rewarding for you to watch the transformations of people who are really just ready for what you're offering.
Okay, this one is going to sound really funny. My client, Charlie Wheat with Wheat Electric, is now able to be a wireless electrician. What? What? So I worked with him in the first month, and he was here in Utah with. In the second month, he was in Brazil with his wife and her family and their kids for the whole entire month, and his business was still operating just great because we had hired 3 new electricians in the first previous month, onboarded them, trained them, made sure that they knew the standards, the expectations, and they would check in, and he has his security camera, so he knew on his app that we made sure to set up that the bands had been returned to his house. The security system said everything was locked. I have obviously double checked on some of that for him, but yeah. And then do you know who was managing everyone? His VA in Venezuela. Well, he's in Brazil, probably closer to his VA than when he's in the States. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And another example of that was Andy. He was on a roof because he does Christmas lights, and we were onboarding his executive assistant to teach her about how to do the email management and create estimates and talk to customers. And so she was in Venezuela and he was on a roof and I was on my phone waiting to pick up my daughter from school. I was like, "Can you believe this world we live in? We're solving your administrative problems all spread out like this." And I think that's what excites me the most is I can do this business anywhere and my people who I'm serving can be anywhere as long as we're just connecting through our technology that we have. And I think what's really valuable about that is both of those people I gave as examples now have the hope that they don't have to be owner operators forever. Now they're transitioning into owners.
Yes.
They've each been in
Oh,
business doing it for over 10 years. And now they're transitioning. And Andy is opening up a golf simulator. You should go check out. I think it's in Lehigh. He has a golf simulator. And he's like, now I don't even have to worry about my landscaping company and lawn spray as much because my VA is going to manage my team and she's going to take pics. They're going to take pictures of the estimates and send it in. And she's going to send back everything. I'm going to go and now do my next business. And so that makes me really happy is like liberating business owners from the chain of their business where it was running them in their life and now they're running. So that's exciting.
so I heard something recently when I was at a conference that this reminds me of. It was a real estate investing conference, and there was a gentleman there. Then one of the guys who'd been doing it for a long time asked this younger gentleman. He said, "Why do you want to do real estate investing?" And the guy looked at him like he was crazy. He said, "Because I'm going to be really rich." He said, "Well, why do you want to be really rich?" He said, "Because I want to open up rental homes that are ADA accessible for people with disabilities." And he starts talking about this beautiful vision that he has for how someday he's going to have these homes where people who are in wheelchairs, 'cause my mom was in a wheelchair. And the guy finally, he says, "Stop, stop, 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 stop." He says, "If you're so passionate about this, why aren't you doing it right now?" And he says, "Well, it's 'cause I don't have any money." He said, "If you were so passionate about this, you wouldn't let something like not having enough money stop you. Go out and do that right now. Because if you're doing something for the money, it's not going to work out. Live the life that you want right now." And what you're talking about is not business owners retiring early, because that's maybe a few steps down the road. It's business owners being unchained to live the life that they want right now, instead of waiting, constantly waiting for something, waiting to have enough time, waiting to have enough money, waiting to have something, waiting, 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 instead of just going on creating the life that they want right now with the resources that they have.
Yeah, exactly. And you were talking about vision. I said over here, I've got my big, huge presenter sticky notes on my wall over here. Part of the vision is I know that business leaders, I call them business leaders because I'm not just owners, but business leaders, the small business owners of the United States are change makers.
Yes.
And they are liberated to not be owned by their business, then they can be involved in local politics and care about the how the legislature is affecting development or is affecting their livelihood or the people they employ. And they could do more in that regard. They also really care about this earth. And I want to be a part of real estate because I would love to see hobby farm neighborhoods, and I would love to see construction go from our traditional build to alternative style buildings with earthships and people having gardens in their front yard, and people in Utah not having lawns and wasting water, but having a poor water catchment system that's like, oh, it's drinking water when I first get it. And then when it goes down my drain, it becomes gray water and that feeds into the plants. And then after the plants, it goes into the rest of it finally black water. It's been used 4 times and then it goes back into the recycling or what is it, the filtration system. I want to see people be freed, more empowered, and then live longer, healthier lives more in tune with the earth.
Yes.
I actually have other big visions, but you got to start with one and make it stable and sustainable. And then it liberates you to go and play with the rest of your business. And so that's
Yes.
what I want to do.
Thank you for taking us into the future and showing us what the world looks like according to Christine, because I feel sometimes we get so bogged down in the hustle or so bogged down with not having enough time or money or whatever that we forget to just take our heads up for a minute and say, this is actually what I want and the change that I want to create. Recently, in our company Rise, we support a nonprofit called Elevate Cote d'Ivoire, where we help people from the Ivory Coast learn VA skills and hire them in our real estate businesses. And there are several people in the program who don't speak English. And so my family started volunteering to help teach them English, to get on a call once a week and make sure that they have the skills that they need in order to be able to perform in the global marketplace. And for me, it was one of those situations where watching this gentleman at the real estate conference basically get called out for why aren't you doing it now? Why aren't you living the life that you want to have now? And I thought, all right, I don't think I'm really living up to that either. And I need to find something that, what would I be doing if I didn't have to work and didn't have to make money? And so now that we're kind of at stage one of retirement, financial freedom, and our assets pay for our basic expenses, things are still pretty tight, right? And I thought, I'm taking this extra time that we have now and still making excuses, still making that I don't have enough time to serve or give back because we're trying to build on retirement 2.0. And I thought, I have to stop doing this. And so being able to say, hey, I want to flip farm homesteads. I
Mhm.
want to practice regenerative agriculture. I want to help people who are going to be placed as virtual assistants learn English so they can do a better job, so they can have access to the world economy. Just go out and do it. Just get it done. And you're liberating business owners from the chain of the business. That doesn't mean we don't want our businesses. That doesn't mean that we don't want to own our businesses. It just means that we need to be able to go out and serve and than think bigger about things than we currently are because we're so bogged down in the weeds, like you said.
And speaking of taking action, I didn't know about that nonprofit and I love it. And that totally correlates with my business. So we should talk about that
Yes.
afterward because
Yeah.
holy cow, that's like perfectly aligned. And I love what you said of doing things now. That's exactly why when I'm talking with my boyfriend Elliot, he's gone and done the New Mexico training where you learn how to build an earthship. He has his
Mhm.
war plan. We're talking about moving to Washington next year, and my sister lives out there. And I'm like, you need to get a tiny home. And we're doing it. And I had an apprenticeship last year on a farm, and you don't know what you don't know until you try it. Because I could very well think of this idealistic, oh, cute little farm life. And if you've never actually gone out at 5 a.m. in the morning to milk your goat, then you don't know if that life is really for you. I think that it is important to take action and do it now and see if you really like reading.
I'll give you a homesteading analogy here to paint
I would.
a picture of what you're talking about. So we had a homestead when we lived in Austin. We had 5 acres and our goats and our chickens and our dogs, and we had to milk the things and do all the stuff, right? But I had friends who were living in their RV full time. And they came to visit us on our homestead and they were looking around and they're saying, "This chicken and duck thing, like this looks amazing." He said, "But just the freedom of being able to go wherever you want in an RV. I just don't know if we could do that." And so that really motivated me to say, I'm not going to let this homestead be a chain to me. I love homesteading. I love what we're doing, but I don't want it to be a chain. I want to be able to go out of town. I want to be able to go and travel and do things and not have to be. So I really got into automations, making sure that the water was automated and it was reliable so that we had redundancies and so that the dog wasn't eating the chicken eggs. And so the feed was being come. So when I had a farm sitter come in, said, all you need to do is come around and check that the automations are not broken because animal, right? And they would just go and look. Yep, water's working. Yep, the chickens are okay. Yep, this. And if something was broken, they would have to call me, and then I would say, okay, let me talk you through this, right? But it allowed us to hire less skilled farm sitters because my kids did farm sitting and people, they were so complicated. Like you really had to have experience with these animals. And they were like, so grateful somebody knows how to handle these animals. And I'm so grateful that your kids are doing farm sitting and that they know how to do this. And I would just hire like the neighbor kid from a neighborhood. Like he'd never been on a farm before in his whole life, but he could come around and manage our farm. And that to me was like the beginning of my thought process. Like, I'm not going to be chained to this homestead. I am going to create the life I want right now and be able to travel and still manage this. And eventually we'll get back to that. That was kind of the rug that was pulled out from under us when my husband was laid off in 2017. We gave up the homestead when we moved across the country. But that really taught me a lot of really important business lessons. Do what you
Mhm.
want now and create your systems and processes so that any kid who's never been on a farm can come and tend your farm. So being able to create those processes that people can step in and run your business for you so you can be an owner instead of an owner operator.
Yeah, and actually, that's the entire vision that I have for Harvest. The vision for Harvest is all people can be wealthy as they follow the law of the harvest. So know what seed you're planting. If you're planting product or service in a business, you can yield from that. You can harvest your crop much faster than sometimes when you to plant a fruit tree. And that's like your real estate investments. And it takes 6 months to a year to get your capital back or something. Or what game are you playing? Know ahead of time so that you can be set up for success. And I love what you're saying about the automation of the farmstead, how easy it was to sit. Because if we do that figuratively for our businesses in comparison with the farmstead, then you're liberated. And if we do that literally in the vision in the future, that like hobby farm neighborhoods are as automated as someone having a Nest
Yep.
smart home inside their home. And it's just
Yep.
like, oh, your broccoli's about ready to harvest. You should go get that from your backyard. Oh, remember to go and get the chicken eggs and bring those in for your omelet. Like, and you're using it in your smart fridge and it says, "Oh, looks like your produce is going bad. You better eat it in the next 2 days." There's a lot of fun that we can create, but you cannot scale or grow if you're not organized. So you
Yes.
can scale and grow to the level of your organization. And it just takes a little bit of time, 20% of your time to just say, I get to spend a majority, 80% of my time doing what I love. So I'm going to take this little chunk over here and make sure I've got a system or process in place.
Mm. It's beautiful. And business owners, I'll just speak to you directly. Y'all know you need this. Like we all could be more productive if we were more organized, had better systems and processes. It's just like that farmer who can travel because the farm has systems and processes. Just think about your business that way. So, Christine, how do people get in touch with you after the show? And what's the type of business owner or your ideal client that you would like to reach out to after the show?
Yes, they can get in touch with me at Christine Diamond Consultant on Instagram or Christine Diamond on Facebook or on my website, consultingwithharvest.com. And my ideal client is actually real estate investors, business owners who are in that stage that you're talking about, who are wanting to owners, not owner operators, have been in business for a long time. They just want to enjoy being a leader of their business. And also, I've really enjoyed helping tradespeople because they're very nervous about technology and software. And I like being that bridge for people who are nervous about clicking a Zoom link. They're like, "I've never done it." And I just am on the phone with them. I'm like, "You got this." And so that's been really fun. I like working with people who are family oriented. They wanna be able to spend time with their kids. They wanna care about their community. They wanna give back. Those are the core humans that I wanna work with because if more high quality, character driven, values driven, family oriented people have more wealth, wealth amplifies who you are inside. And so if they are amplified and edified to have a higher impact, oh my goodness, what could happen in the world? So that's who I want to serve and help.
I love this beautiful partnership because what you do and what I do dovetail together so nicely, helping people build wealth and build more wealth. Because again, you couldn't have said it better. It amplifies who they already are inside. So if you're that character driven business owner or you're that character driven type of investor, like we want to talk to you. Reach out after the show. The show is all about networking. We don't just do this to talk to each other, although, like I said, it's my show. I get to ask some selfish questions. But we really want to talk to you. So after the show, please reach out to Christine. Please reach out to me if you need help with your business or if you need help with your investing. And it could be if your business is running on greased rails, maybe you're ready to just get started investing. But I think that what you do, Christine, can really help business owners of any size, any type. You don't have to be a train wreck to improve your efficiency and to continue to make progress and continue to build more wealth so that you can serve more people.
I love it. And I'm so grateful to have this conversation. And I'm always going to continue working with you because you really are a high quality person. And I love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much. It's been so fun to get to know you over these last couple of years and really watching both of our businesses blossom by associating with one another. So I really appreciate all of your help that you've given us and to the people that we have referred you to. We really appreciate it. And thanks everybody out there for listening. And I will talk to you after the show. Isn't it amazing how much crossover there is between learning to trust people in your business and learning to trust people that you're going to invest with? The same business skills that you are cultivating in your own entrepreneurial journey are the skills that you're looking for in the people that you're going to invest with. We are basically running businesses, real estate investing businesses. And so being able to manage people well, be able to manage our books well, being able to keep track of everything, customer service, as well as the management of the asset itself, like the construction management, managing the property manager, all of those things are entrepreneurial skills. Each of the deals that you're investing in are small businesses. And so the skills that you have as an entrepreneur or as a professional in a well run business are the things that you should be looking for in the people that you're going to invest with. Don't let getting caught up in the numbers and all of the things that you don't know stop you from reaching out for your dreams. It's easier to teach people who are ready to learn than it is to teach people who think that it's impossible. If you're already doing these things in your business or in your job, it's a lot easier to learn the actual techniques and skills and knowledge that you need to have in order to invest confidently than it is to teach somebody who thinks it's impossible and it's not even worth trying. So, thank you for joining us today on Passive Income Adventures. Please reach out after the show. You can get a hold of us at partnerwithrise.com, where you can grab some time on our calendar to have a conversation about investing. And you can reach out to Christine at Harvest Consulting. We want to talk to you after the show so that we can hear about your next passive income adventure.